MMA fans can agree that the lightweight division is probably the most exciting division in the UFC. It has incredible stars like Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and most of the time when you get a top lightweight fight, it is a banger. But right now, the lightweight division is in a bit of a mess. Fights to make in the lightweight division to really clean this division out, because like I said, right now it's in a bit of a mess. There's a lot going on. Topuria moving up to the division, Poirier wanting his retirement fight, Justin Gaethje just beating Rafa Fiziev and asking for a title shot, Armin Tsarukyan, missing weight at UFC 311, with Islam Makhachev not getting a proper title defense. Right now the division is in a bit of a mess, and I truly believe that I'm gonna fix it in this video. So before I get started, please make sure to like and subscribe. Fight. What is the correct title defense for Islam Makhachev next? And I know this is not really going to be a surprise for many of you, especially if you watch my content, but I'm a hard advocate that Topuria needs to be the next guy to fight Islam Makhachev, because you have to strike when the iron is hot. Topuria is undefeated, just knocked out Max Holloway, knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, the two greatest featherweights of all time. Has insane aura. Just stylistically, it would be a very exciting fight. Topuria, he's undefeated. He's undefeated in MMA. Islam Makhachev hasn't lost in a very long time. I just think that right now, this is the fight to make. You know what I'm saying? This is the fight to make. I know a lot of people are against it because they believe Topuria needs to challenge somebody at a 155 before getting that title shot. I do not believe that, man. He's the champion of the featherweight division. The only reason he's not the champion is because he vacated the belt. You know what I'm saying? So I think right now it's the perfect time to make this fight, and I think that this would probably be the biggest fight you can make right now in the lightweight division. So I don't understand why there's people that are against the Topuria Islam matchup. I think that this would be an incredible main event for an international fight week, even potentially a co-main event of a John Jones versus Aspinall main event for international fight week. Can you imagine that card? That's absolutely fantastic. So I just don't understand why people do not believe this is the fight to make. This is clearly the fight to make. Topuria just sacrificed his belt, and I just don't see a scenario where he doesn't fight for the title next. It just does not make a lot of sense to me. Would fights with Oliveira, Poirier, would those fights be exciting? Of course, because it's Ilia Topuria, has incredible boxing, has been knocking guys out cold in the featherweight division. We want to see how he would do against the heaviest hitters in the division. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that people, I'm not saying that Topuria versus Oliveira would be boring, but I just think that right now is just a perfect time for Topuria Islam, and I think it would be a huge missed opportunity if the UFC were just to give Topuria somebody else. And when I explain some of the matchups, you'll see that there's truly nobody for Islam to fight right now in the lightweight division that would be as exciting as Topuria. Right? For the title fight in the lightweight division, it's a clear fight. I think that fight is definitely going to happen. I think that the UFC is going to try to make that fight, and I think Islam is going to accept that fight. I think a lot of people are thinking that Islam's not going to, he doesn't want that fight, but I think he knows that, Topuria has a lot of hype. Like I said, he has a lot of aura. He's undefeated. He's looked absolutely phenomenal, been finishing guys left and right. I just don't see why you wouldn't take that fight. I know people are saying that people are going to try to discredit Islam by beating Topuria because he just beat a featherweight, which I don't even understand, because that same guy just knocked out Max Holloway, who knocked out Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. So I don't understand this argument of Topuria and Max Holloway, if you beat those guys at 155, they're just lightweights. We just saw what Max Holloway was able to do in the lightweight division. So you know what I'm saying? So I'm tired of that bull crap. It's absolutely bullshit. Topuria versus Islam is the fight to make next. Now, this next fight, I think it's perfect. Justin Gaethje versus Armin Tsarukyan. I think the winner of this fight would be undeniable for the next title shot. And I'm going to tell you why this fight is perfect. Well, one, we know the UFC is not going to give Armin Tsarukyan the next title shot just because he missed weight. At least I think he missed weight at UFC 311 and had to pull out of that fight. You kind of ruined that card last minute. I just don't see the UFC rewarding Armin Tsarukyan because of that. Justin Gaethje, I don't see them giving him another title shot just because, I mean, he just got knocked out in his last fight. He's 0-2 in title shots. We saw him get submitted by, Charles Oliveira. We saw him get submitted by Khabib Nurmagomedov. So even though Justin Gaethje is a very exciting fighter, I just think stylistically the fight with Islam is not a very interesting one. You know what I'm saying? It would just be Justin Gaethje getting subbed again, and in my opinion, it would be a waste of a title shot. And in my opinion, it's not more exciting than Topuria Islam. So I just don't see that fight happening next. He beat a Rafa Fiziev, who he had already beaten. I was predicting that he was going to beat Rafa Fiziev in the rematch. He ended up doing that. It was still a very close fight, so it's not like Justin Gaethje just showed new wrinkles in his game. This is typical Justin Gaethje, and like I said, I just don't think that fight with Islam makes any sense right now. I don't know why people are advocating for that fight. I think they're just, I mean, Gaethje, I get it. Gaethje gets one win in the lightweight division, and people want him to get a title shot, and I understand that he did not need to get he did not need to fight Max Holloway at UFC 300. He probably could have fought for the title next, but the reality is he did. He got knocked out cold, and I just think that it's not the best fight you can make. But if you pair him up with Tsarukyan, I think the winner of this fight would be undeniable for that next shot. And I think stylistically, it's a very exciting fight, because I think that if Gaethje is able to get through someone like Tsarukyan, who has great wrestling, who is very fast on the feet, who's young, explosive, Gaethje. If Arman is able to knock out someone like Gaethje, I mean, he would also be undeniable. So I think stylistically, this fight does a lot for both these guys. I think that if Arman beats Gaethje, I think it does a lot for his resume. And if Gaethje is able to get through someone like Tsarukyan, then a potential fight with either Topuria or Islam is an incredible fight. And I think people would be a lot more exciting to see Gaethje fight for the title if this is the fight they make next, and if he wins that fight against Arman Tsarukyan, which is why I think this fight is absolutely perfect. Know that this is going to piss off a lot of people. I'm a big Charles Oliveira fan, but I think Charles Oliveira should fight Dan Hooker. I think that's the fight to make, and I think it's low-key a banger, and I think it works timing-wise. Both of these guys want to fight for International Fight Week, and I know that Oliveira, he's always one fight away from fighting for the title, but in my opinion, man, I would want to see Oliveira go on a bit of a streak. I mean, he just beat Chandler in the rematch. Before that, he lost to Arman Tsarukyan, so I don't see how Oliveira should be fighting for the title or even a number one contender fight, if I'm being honest. Like I said, he lost not so long ago. Both of these guys lost pretty badly to Islam Makhachev, which is why I just don't want to see Oliveira or Hooker in the title picture right now. And I think it would be a very, very fun fight. I think this is a fight that was kind of supposed to happen last year, if I'm not mistaken, at UFC 305, and we never got it. And it's a very interesting stylistic fight. I think it would be exciting. I think it would be a really good win on Oliveira's resume if he's able to get it. And if Hooker's able to get through someone like Oliveira, then, he kind of cements himself as a top contender in the lightweight division. So I think this would be an incredible fight, a fight that a lot of people are not really talking about. And I think it's truly the fight to make next. Now, the next fight has to do with Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier is in a bit of a weird spot, in my opinion, because I think he should be fighting guys like Tsarukyan. I think he should be fighting guys like Paddy Pimblett, but because it is his retirement fight and he's out of the title picture, he wants to fight a legend. And the only guy that they could really give him, if we're being honest, is Max Holloway. Max Holloway, even though he's already beaten him 2 times, last time was on short notice for Max Holloway. I think that the Max Holloway we saw at UFC 300 looked a lot better than he originally moved up to the lightweight division. I think Dustin Poirier, the way he looked against Islam Makhachev on the feet, didn't look all that impressive to me. It looked like a guy that's definitely on the decline. So I think this is the fight to make next. Now, am I truly that excited for Holloway Poirier 3? Not really. I mean, it's going to be a banger of a fight, and I think the day of the fight will be very exciting. But I like to see fresh matchups, which is why I'm trying to make fresh matchups in the lightweight division. This fight is already kind of rumored for New Orleans in July for a pay-per-view. So I think they're going to end up making this fight. I think it makes a lot of sense for both these guys. I mean, Holloway's coming off a knockout loss. Dustin Poirier is coming off getting submitted to Islam Makhachev about a year ago. So I think this is a fight to make. Like I said, I wish Poirier would actually fight contenders. Maybe like an Arman Tsarukyan or potentially, the winner of Chandler, Paddy. But I think they're going to end up making this fight. And when I heard that this fight was rumored, it just made a lot of sense to me. And I was like, yeah, they're definitely going to make Holloway Poirier 3. I think it's a perfect retirement fight for Dustin Poirier, who I think should be if I'm being honest, fighting a contender. I get it. It's his retirement fight. I think it's a good fight for Max Holloway. I think he wants to get that fight back as well. So I think it would be a very competitive fight. I like that fight. I think it would be very exciting. And Max Holloway, like I said, he's also coming off a knockout loss. So I think he wants to get a win back before actually moving up in the lightweight division to fight like a top 5 contender, in my opinion, or a top 3, my bad, a top 3 contender. Because if he's able to get through Dustin Poirier, then I think you can make Holloway versus Oliveira, potentially Holloway. I mean, not Holloway versus Gaethje. I mean, I wouldn't want to see that fight again if I'm being honest. But maybe, I don't know, Tsarukyan or an Oliveira. I think those would be very interesting matchups for Holloway. We have to see how he looks in the lightweight division after coming off a knockout loss in the featherweight division against Topuria, which, I mean, isn't really saying much because, I mean, Topuria has been knocking guys out left and right. So I think Holloway's going to be able to recover from that knockout loss. I think he's taken enough time off. And like I said, I think that fight with Dustin Poirier would be an absolute banger, guys. So that is me fixing the lightweight division, especially those top 5 guys. I think these are the matchups to make next in the lightweight division, and I think it would bring a lot of order to the division, and there would be a clear pattern of who should be next. Like I said, I think Gaethje versus Armin is a fresh matchup, and I think the winner of that fight is undeniable. I don't want to see Oliveira fight for the title when we've seen him fight for the title. You know, he lost to Makhachev not so long ago. He lost to Tsarukyan. He just went to a decision with a Chandler that was washed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see Oliveira in a fun fight. Like, either I want to see him fight Max Holloway or Dan Hooker. I think those are the next fights for Charles Oliveira. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira, but right now, I think he needs to be smart with his career. I don't think he should take fights with Tsarukyan or Makhachev again. I think you should get a fight with Hooker, you know, kind of get your confidence back, you know, be on a 2-fight win streak, and then maybe get that Tsarukyan rematch or that Islam title shot, you know what I'm saying? Because Islam Makhachev is also potentially going to move up to the welterweight division at some point. So this division, there's going to be a lot of fights going on, and I think the summer is definitely going to be the summer of the lightweight division.